We have quite a lot of good traders now on the session, and fortunately when we've been setting up here in Miami, the new Miami office, Miami Bill's done an excellent job on the sterling yen. The best way to show you what happened overnight was the sterling yen grid and the sterling yen charts. So if we zoom in on the sterling yen grid, if I can just bring it up and find my mouse here, there we go. We've got the bright Miami sunshine in the background here. You can see that the sterling yen, even now, the grid has a lot of space on the downside. Now what we've tried to do is to make complex charting. There's a chart, for example, of sterling yen on the 15 minutes, and you can see how earlier this evening or last night on the chat, Miami Bill was talking about sterling yen. If it broke through around the 207.17 area, that we would fall off a cliff. Now, you get a confirmation of that when you break through our longer term black line, or we tend to call that in London as our norm line, because Norman Allen always trades that black line for a follow through. And you can see the trajectory of our short term lines, which are the red and the green line, fall off a cliff, and the price action fall very rapidly in a staircase descent from this 207 area right down to where we are now, as you can see on the grid, 204, 1995 area. Now there is still potential downside, as you can see on this grid, because what this grid does is it gives you very quickly a snapshot of all of the charts, not just the 15-minute. That's the 15-minute chart. That's the lane that we're on. That's the 15-minute lane. And as you can see, there's nothing on the road to the downside. If we look at a 5-minute chart, which is bringing, if you like, a bit closer into the foreground, or a zoom lens, you've just zoomed in another notch to what's happening right now, you can see how beautiful that down line was. The price bars tucking under that green line. Every time they get to the green line, you can resell it. Now even at 205 and 204.99, where the 5-minute area is, we are still struggling to break much higher. So what the grid would have told you last night, when we were, just to go back to the 15-minute chart for a minute, what the grid would have told you last night at this area here is that you had massive downside potential. Bill was calling it on the live Asian session, and as we've already seen on the chat today, we had one guy calling about 100 and some points. It's certainly on the chat there, so today's